We're here with Ben Bavinck from Appleton, Wisconsin. Ben has been involved in soccer all his life, I think, although you were not born in Wisconsin, right? Where were you born, and what brought you to Appleton, Nina?
Well, I was born in Weesp, North Holland, Netherlands.
Is that by Amsterdam?
Close to Amsterdam, yeah, about 15 kilometers out. And I played soccer there for Victory for about 3 years before we ended up moving here to America. My dad had visited an older brother that had immigrated in 1952, and in '57, when he was over here, when he came home, he said, "We're moving to America." And at my age, 13, that's all the deciding was for me. So.
Yeah, I imagine that was pretty adventurous for a 13-year-old, yes. So you had brothers and sisters older than you that stayed in the Netherlands?
There were 3 sisters that were married with their own families that stayed behind. And the older brother had already immigrated, so this trip was with Mom and Dad and 6.
Wow. Wow. Interesting, and you did not know a lot of English at the time?
I had started trade school in Amsterdam, and English was a required subject, but it was only about 3 months, so I think I knew 3 or 4 words.
Yeah, a little bit of conversational English, but you had to learn everything. And then you had to go to school here, and they didn't speak Dutch in school, did they?
No, I went to St. Joe's grade school in Appleton, and they would have me go to 1st grade and 2nd grade reading, and in between whatever we were doing in the classroom, they would have kids go out in the hallway with me and do spelling and stuff like that.
Oh.
So, but as a child, you learn
And you felt
fairly quick.
you had a lot of help too
Yeah.
from fellow students there, yes. There were other immigrants in the area at that time?
Yes, there were Willie Hurst, who was in school there. There was also some bankers, kids in school, so it wasn't, totally strange.
But you were forced to learn English in order to fit in and to be able to
Yes.
listen to the radio and other things like that.
Right.
So there was no soccer here?
There was no soccer when we arrived, that I was aware of anyways. It was in the later part of '59 that Willie Hurst came to school one day, and he said, there's a guy from Germany that's going to start a soccer team. And so him and I and my brother John went and played with him. We practiced at what was at that time Fox Valley Lutheran High School. And it turned into the Appleton Soccer Club, which was around for a very short time, 3 years, I think.
There were just not enough new people coming from Europe to fill the team.
There were a number of people that were playing with us that ended up getting drafted into service or moved away for other reasons, and so in '64 we ended up breaking that up.
But then there was a team in Oshkosh?
Yeah, then at that time Willie and I went and played with Oshkosh. And a little, as the years went by, some of the other people that had been playing with us came and joined. And then in '66, it was more Appleton people. Matter of fact, I think the only Oshkosh guy was Tony Engelman.
That was still playing, yeah.
That was still playing, and so then that's when
Yeah.
Billy and I talked to his dad, and I know you, and from Pell, a number of different people got involved.
And Freddie Werner was also at
Cut
Oshkosh.
the,
Pete Litchens.
Yeah, but those guys weren't playing with us at the end, though.
No, Pete played kind of all over Wisconsin.
Well,
yeah.
Pete at that time was playing in the Major League, you know.
Yes, yeah. So you played for a while and you ended up coaching as well. How did you make that transition? How did you get involved in coaching?
Well, the coaching started when yourself and Harry, myself, and it started the boys, you know.
The boys sports?
Sports
Yeah,
program.
national?
And from there, it was in '76, I believe, '76, that we started the first high school team. At Xavier was a club sport. I had players from Menasha, Kimberly, several of the Appleton schools, and of course some from Xavier.
Back in the late '60s too, and we were trying to get soccer involved, but we didn't get the support from youth clubs like we did get later on. But I remember you coached Xavier for, it was 3 or 4 practices, and then we had a tournament. Xavier, Appleton West, and I think Appleton West and East maybe. Pepe coached the team, I coached the team, and you coached the team. And Bob Lloyd, who was the voice of football and basketball in town, he didn't directly broadcast the game, but he talked a lot about it on the radio.
Yeah.
And he said, finally we get the 3 schools to compete, because there was always the public schools and the Catholic school, Lutheran schools, they never played together. And this was the first time, which we didn't even know. We didn't want to upset anybody, we just didn't know. That was a little bit of high school, but that was like a short, few weeks program.
Yeah.
But then it became full force in the '80s. I think.
Yeah. Xavier in their second year went varsity, and Nina had started up.
Mhm.
We were playing in what was called the Woodlands League.
The Woodlands High School League, yeah, that Ed
That
Byrne had
was,
started that, yes. That lasted for a long time.
Yeah. And,
Kimberly had a pretty good team. I think the first time they had a state high school tournament was a club tournament, and Kimberly won it in Milwaukee. It was sometime in the '70s.
Okay, there was an unofficial state tournament before that,
Mhm.
because in our first year at Xavier, we went down there and we placed second.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, there was a year that Jimmy Banks was still playing for Custer High School.
Yeah, yeah.
He became a star with the national team. But then, I think most of your coaching you did with St. Mary's High School.
Yeah. Started there in '81 and off and on. There was a couple of times when we thought we had somebody that was gonna be able to handle the program easier than what it was for me with my work situation. And but it never seemed to turn out, so I ended up going back.
Yeah, work interfered with a lot of fun things that we were trying to do.
Until both my youngest were in college, and then I ended
Ease
up.
things up a little bit. Did your girls play soccer for you too at St. Mary's?
Actually, Tracy played for us in the first team at Xavier.
Uh-huh.
And then Sarah and Megan played soccer for the team that my wife coached, and then Sarah ended up playing for me a couple of years at St. Mary's. It was kind of interesting. There weren't too many girls playing at that point, and we were playing against Lourdes, and the boys from Lourdes pretty much ignored. There was Sarah and one other gal, and pretty quick Sarah took a shot and it ripped off at a bar. Now all of a sudden they were more interested in covering her.
Yeah. Did you also worked at a lot of soccer camps? Remember Minnesota, Parkside?
Yeah, Minnesota, Parkside, and then Winning Mood.
Oh, yes, the nice guys, yeah.
Well, I actually started in Fond du Lac. We, John and myself and a number of people started at
So soccer was a big part of your life and also your family. You talked soccer at the breakfast table on quite a few occasions. Yeah.
Yes.
That all helps too, and you like to pursue that sport. I remember we started an indoor program in Appleton because we couldn't get the guys to come out for practice. But we felt if we had a league, we only needed 5 players on the team. We got 20 guys signed up, you got 4 teams, you got to play a league. And that worked out pretty good, James Madison Junior High School. But then other cities were doing that too. And I remember the first tournament we were going to at Eau Claire. You would put a team together. One Brazilian kid was on the team, I remember. And you were there longer than any of us, because you stuck it out till the end of the tournament and won the tournament.
Yeah, we were there for the first year for the Eau Claire tournament with the Coach Lampin team. Unfortunately, there were quite a few people that couldn't make it, so we ended up with just 5 of us in a double elimination one-day tournament. And in the first game, in the first half, I went up for a head ball and met somebody else's head and ended up with a cut over my eye and finished the game with a bandage pressed against it. And then in between game, which the game was against the St. Paul Celtics, and we lost that game. And then in between games, I went to the hospital, got stitched up, told the doctor we didn't have any subs, it should be okay for me to play.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, but don't do any more head balls. And anyways, we ended up winning the tournament, going
yes, I remember
the rest
that.
of the way, and beating the
us
Celtics twice at the end.
Yeah. The rest of us had gone home already.
Yeah.
We won our first game, but we didn't make it till the end like you did.
No.
When we heard you won the championship, it was pretty decent. 5 guys, no substitutes, and
Yeah.
I remember there were other games like with the Fox Valley Bombers when you won the state championship and then you were promoted to the major league, but you had to have 2 teams. And that seemed to be not a problem, but after a few weeks, a lot of you ended up playing 2 games.
Well, state championships we won in 70 and 71, and 70 we decided not to take the move up, and we thought we had enough people in after 71, and we took the major league position, in which, as you say, requires 2 teams to play each Sunday, and it typically worked out fairly well when we were at home, but for traveling, it's cut pretty short.
And there was a lot of traveling, every other week.
Last game against the Serbians, we ended up showing up with 7 people for the reserve game, and for the major league game, Aldo Santaga was the only guy that showed up from Green Bay, so.
So you have the same 7 players play 2 games.
7 players for
for 2
one game
games.
and 8 players for the next game.
It's pretty hard to beat the Bavarians and the Serbs.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah.
We decided to drop that. And then the following year, we started to league in this area.
Yes, yeah. And from there, it grew. It was just a matter of time, I
Yeah.
guess. But you were in the different, can you stop a second, do that over? I was gonna say,